Well, good afternoon, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Maria Fernanda Espinosa. I will be moderating this roundtable. And welcome all. Thank you to the Paris Peace Forum for organizing this series on the 10th anniversary of the Paris Agreement. I can say that there is no overstatement to say that climate change represents the defining test of our multilateral system. 10 years ago, in this very city, we witnessed a turning point in the climate governance regime. We felt, for the ones that were here, like me and many of you, we felt momentum. We felt international solidarity. We felt hope. And we also felt confident that the Paris Agreement would equip us with the tools to bridge our differences and pave the road towards lasting cooperation. So in the agreement, it's not perfect, of course, but it has delivered. Before the Paris Accord, we were on track to 4 degrees warming. And if you look at it, we fulfill the last round of NDCs alone, it can put us on track to around 2.6 degrees. I'm not happy about that, but better to have the Paris Agreement, I would say. So, you know, we know, and around this table of experts, we know that the scale and the speed of action is nowhere near enough. And we know that. We have not only crossed 7 out of the 9 planetary boundaries, which are the thresholds for a habitable life on Earth. We've also just reached the first global climate tipping point, the mass die of coral reefs. And these challenges affect the poor and the most vulnerable, and of course, including women and girls who bear the brunt of the climate crisis. So as we look ahead, we must focus on one thing, one word: implementation, action. And basically, these implementation challenges are many. From widening the climate finance gap and a geopolitical landscape that often diverts attention away from climate priorities, to delays in the submissions of countries of next round of NDCs, and the lack of fiscal space for developing countries to deliver on the climate commitments. So in this context, nature-based solutions, the title of our roundtable, offer a concrete pathway for fast, fair, and efficient action, helping us restore ecosystems, reduce emissions, and build resilience for both people and planet. So this panel of super experts and practitioners from across the world will give us an overview of the results and lessons learned from initiatives that we have seen so far with nature-based solutions, and of innovative financial mechanisms. I already heard that there's some good news that are going to be shared during this roundtable. And basically, what are the efforts out there to accelerate implementation using nature as a source of inspiration, but as the raw material for climate action. So I cannot think of a better person to open this roundtable than Minister Monique Barbut. She's the Minister for Ecological Transition, Biodiversity, and International Negotiations on Climate and Nature of France. Without further delay, Minister Barbut, you have the floor to kick us up with this panel.
Many thanks, Maria Espinosa. Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, it's true that I'm very happy to see Maria again here because I saw Maria many times in my previous capacity, because we worked on many events together. I'd like to say that as a French Minister for Ecological Transition, it's a real privilege for me to be able to talk to you alongside my colleagues, ministers in Paris, in the framework of the celebration of the 10th anniversary of the Paris Peace Agreement. We are going to be celebrating this agreement as a catalyst of global evolution and look at what has been done so far. We renew our commitment towards innovation, and we're looking at a future in which nature will be a partner for our resilience. I would also like to say that France has played a relentless role in the matter. At all of the COP meetings focusing on climate, France has always said that in order to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions or others, we need to support biodiversity, whether on land or in the oceans. So, at the next COP in Belém, we'll make sure we focus on this interaction between the Earth and the ocean, which is the only way of maintaining our planet in a viable condition. Our partnerships provide quite a bit of hope in France. 17.5 million hectares of forests, which account for 32% of our national territory, and of which the most part is represented by the Amazon forest and rainforest in Guyana, is a protection against erosions and provide 400,000 jobs, reinforce local economies, all of this through timber, tourism, or other sectors. Globally speaking, even if we lost 8.1 million hectares in 2024, we saw that at the same time, in the long run, deforestation has decreased. It went from 17 million hectares per annum in the 90s as 10.9 million hectares between 2015 and 2025. So over 1 billion hectares today are under responsible management and under the aegis of the 3 Rio Conventions. And the Great Green Wall in Africa, for example, which has been revitalized through a fund of $19 billion during the One Planet Summit in 2021, has enabled us to restore 21 billion hectares and to create 350,000 jobs. So these are examples of success that can serve as an inspiration for restoration and conservation all over the world. According to the UN Convention against desertification, and I'm happy to see Louise Baker, my former colleague, the restoration of 21 billion hectares could generate $800 million per annum and create 65 million green jobs. So all of these efforts provide returns. These are strategic investments which reinforce our resilience and have a real economic value. And I'm very sure that our panelist friends representing investment funds will be able to show you what the intrinsic economic value there is in these investments. So putting nature at the core of our policies is certainly a winning strategy. The lessons we've learned from the Paris agreements are pretty clear, and they need to bring us to reinforce the synergies between the Rio Conventions to make sure we prioritize biodiversity and our ecosystems. Secondly, they need to bring us to develop smart funding to benefit from development banks and the private sector to finance nature-based solutions. And lastly, they should lead us to favor the dialogue and the collaboration between different sectors, between governments, between businesses, between citizens, and all of this to build and implement these solutions. We all have a strong connection with nature. We are connected to nature. So trying to find a solution to the climate crisis without looking at the crisis that biodiversity faces. And this is what our British friends call, or Anglo-Saxon friends call, a game over. We will not be able to survive as a species, a human species, without nature. In 10 years' time, if we invest in nature-based solutions, we can imagine large forests, restored land, pollution-free oceans. We have to bet on that and give ourselves the means to do so. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much, Minister, dear Monique.
Not only for your wise words, but for the unwavering commitment of France to climate action throughout these years, for the Paris Agreement that we cherish so much, but also for the efforts you're doing today. The numbers on restoration of ecosystems, on stopping and reversing deforestation at the same time that you create jobs and economic prosperity, that's exactly the formula. That's exactly what nature-based solutions mean. And so thank you, and thank you very, very much again, Madam Minister. Let me now just tell you one thing. This dialogue is going to have like 3 sections. The first one would be we will hear from experts in this roundtable about country and regional progress and the role of international cooperation. So that's one cluster. A second cluster that is very important is the role of civil society and the contributions to nature-based solutions. And then the third section and pillar of our conversation will be about the role of the private sector and finance in advancing nature-based solutions. So 3 clusters, incredible speakers, but the downside is that we have only 1 hour. And yes, and we have many super speakers here, like the dream team of nature-based solutions around us. So I will ask you, please, 3 minutes each. So perhaps at the end we will have the time to go for a second time around the table for one headline for tomorrow from all of you. And without further delay, let me start with this first cluster on country and regional progress and the role of international cooperation. And what I would like to do is perhaps pose 3 general overarching questions, and you choose what is that you want to respond to or just simply share with us. The first question, and it really makes sense, and in terms of the progress made by regions in implementing nature-based solutions and what challenges remain ahead of us. The second question is how is that international cooperation can support the global scaling of nature-based solutions and what opportunities exist for further collaboration. One of the problems of nature-based solutions is the scale of the good practice practices that we see around the world. In the third question to this first group of speakers would be, what is the support that countries are providing to advance the nature-based solutions adopting. So what is that countries need to go forward with nature-based solutions? And I will start by giving the floor to Balarabe Abbas Lawal. He's the Minister of the Environment of Nigeria. Excellency, welcome and looking forward to listening to you for 3 minutes. You have the floor, Excellency.
Thank you very much first of all, let me thank the organizers for inviting me and indirectly inviting Nigeria to this very important forum. Because I believe that this forum is so important and long overdue that we need to look at nature-based solutions. And what I found out interesting is that this forum is linked to the issue of security, because climate change, degradation of land, and some of these issues are so much serious that they affect the issue of security in most of our nations. That's why I find that in our subcontinent, we have facing a lot of issues that has to do with insecurity, which is tied down strongly to the issue of land degradation and climate issues. So in Nigeria, for example, if I pick the first question, we have come up with a number of initiatives, a number of projects that are directed into addressing the issue of land degradation and the issue of encroachment of the desert, because part of what we are confronting is also the encroachment of the desert from the northern part of the country. So we started with the National Great Green Wall, which is an agency that is responsible trying to fence the northern part of Nigeria from the encroachment of the desert. And that in itself led to the creation of the Pan-African Great Green Wall, which is the minister have just mentioned, and it's being supported, and I think we need a lot of support. So there are a number of countries, about 13 countries that have joined, and more are trying to join in trying to see that we have a multilateral approach to the issue of climate change. So under Great Green Wall, we have done a lot in terms of land restoration. About 20 million hectares restored across the 11 Sahelian countries that's under the Great Green Wall, and 450 jobs, generating about 90 million revenue for us. And also, Nigeria alone has restored about 7 million hectares of land, planted over 10 million trees and 10 million seedlings that is now being done to support afforestation. Because one of the issues that we face in Nigeria is that there is this conflict between agriculture and forestry. Because you find that forestry is taking a lot, agriculture is taking a lot from the forest. So we're trying to see whether we can merge the two and make it in a way that there's coexist between forestry and agriculture. And to the south, we find that because of oil exploration, a large number of the forest, the swamps in that area have been depleted. So we are trying to do a massive mangrove restoration in that area. So we have been able to clean up about 918 hectares of polluted shorelines and planted 2 million mangrove trees to restore the nature around that area. So we believe that nature-based solution is very important, and but the most important thing we need to address is the issue of fund challenges, because we have a lot of fund paucity. We have come up with a lot of funding issues like the green bond we have just launched. We have launched two of them earlier, and now we're launching the third one. Those fund is responsible for trying to address the issue of green jobs and create jobs in Nigeria, and also take care of the issue of emission in the area of transportation, the issue of trying to plant more trees around, because Nigeria has a very low forest cover, so we need to do more in that area. So I want to thank you very much for this opportunity, and I believe that maybe we'll give in more time to raise some of this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency, Mr. Abbas Lawal. I think that the Minister Barbut is going to leave us soon, or you can stay for a little. Okay, wonderful. Okay. But, thank you, Minister, also for, bringing up the nexus between climate, security, and development, and for sharing the multilateral approach that you're taking to land restoration. I think that the Great Green Wall is becoming one of the landmark exercises, and I think it's succeeding and bringing 11 countries together so far. And also congratulations for the Mangrove Restoration Initiative. And of course, more money, more results. We are still there.
That's why I'm glad she's here.
Well, now let me bring to the conversation to Rita Schwarzelühr-Sutter, Parliamentary State Secretary of the Federal Minister for the Environment of Germany. So you have the floor.
Thank you, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Ecosystems like forests, peatlands and soils are under threat worldwide from deforestation, degradation, drainage, and advancing climate change. But we can make these ecosystems our allies again if we protect, restore, and use them sustainably. Nature, and in Germany too, our forests, peatlands and soils have become part of the problem because unlike in the past, they now also emit greenhouse gases, around 50 million tons last year. And nature must stop being a source of greenhouse gases and return to its function as a greenhouse gas sink. To bring about this change, at the end of September, Federal Environmental Minister Carsten Schneider presented proposals for further developing the Federal Action Plan on Nature-Based Solutions for Climate and Biodiversity. The overarching goal of this wide-ranging action plan is to protect, strengthen, and restore ecosystems. With the further development of this action plan, we aim to strengthen our natural environment to help mitigate climate change, and our proposals for nature contribution to climate action in Germany in the coming years indicates compromise 41 measures. Some of the action plan's most important measures are forest conversion to better protect the forest from extreme weather events in future, rewetting of peat soils to reduce the high greenhouse gas emissions from these soils, measures to preserve humus and agriculture soils which contribute to mitigating climate change and protecting soil fertility. Nature will be instrumental in ensuring that Germany is climate neutral by 2045. This is because any carbon dioxide that is still emitted after the reduction targets have been reached must be removed from the atmosphere somewhere else. And that is something that peatlands, forests, and soils can do if we let them. The action plan combines climate action with nature conservation, and it's the central instrument of the German government for achieving climate targets in the land use, land change, and forestry sector, in addition to the drastic greenhouse gas emission reduction in other sectors. And experts, associations, and authorities at federal, state, and municipal level were involved through online dialogue. And even members of the public without any technical expertise can give their input, and their comments are given equal consideration. For us in Germany, nature-based solutions are also a security measure when it comes to adapting of the impacts of climate change and preventing the loss of biodiversity. Nature-based solution and security are closely linked, as intact ecosystems regulate the climate and serve as natural buffers against climate impacts such as flooding and heat. Intact forests and floodplains can absorb and store water to mitigate flooding. And you know this all, but perhaps the international cooperation, what do we do? In Germany, we firmly believe that harnessing the synergies offered by nature-based solutions is essential to successfully mitigate climate change, conserve biodiversity, combat land degradation. And close cooperation, including at international level, is crucial for our joint progress. Internationally, Germany supports nature-based solutions through this International Climate Initiative, ICI projects, the Enhancing Nature-Based Solution for an Accelerated Climate Transformation Partnership for Nature-Based Solutions, and the National Biodiversity Strategies and Action Plans Accelerated Partnership to promote integrated implementation. We also think that the enhanced cooperation between the Rio Conventions is important, and we are open to discussing an appropriate format for options and pathways for enhanced policy coherence, and will work constructively with the COP presidencies to advance the Rio Synergies agenda. To this end, we have initiated an international stakeholder dialogue series on Rio Synergies in collaboration with UNEP, and particularly through the best practice examples, we want to learn from one another how smart synergies and efficiency gains can improve the integration of the Rio Conventions, leading to more effective policies and accelerated implementations on the ground. Thank you.
We thank you, Madam State Secretary, so much. Looking forward to looking at the Federal Action Plan for Nature-Based Solutions. And also thank you for Germany for keeping up its promises with the Green Deal in Europe, and for your interest in bringing synergies and coherence to the three Rio Conventions. I think that's a catalyst for greater cooperation and dialogue. So thank you for that. Let me bring immediately after Dame Ruth Davis, Special Representative for Nature of the United Kingdom. So you have the floor. You have the floor, Excellency.
Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you, Minister. It's a pleasure to be here. Everyone is being very good at keeping to time, so I'm going to go straight in answering one of your questions, if I may. You put the challenge about, I think, how international cooperation can help to scale up solutions. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that. What is very clear in the situation we find ourselves in is that we've spent too long thinking about individual projects and probably not enough time thinking about economic transformation that works for people and thinking about achieving things at the scale of whole ecosystems. And I think the Great Green Wall is an example of how we can move into a very different paradigm. So what can we take from that to move forward with a menu of options for scale? I think the first one I would like to put on the table is that we really do need to work harder to understand the way in which the risks associated with nature loss, but particularly the opportunities associated with nature restoration, relate to issues around debt and the cost of capital. It seems to me very clear that if a country is investing in building resilience through nature-based solutions and through its agricultural system, that should be reflected in the affordability of its access to capital. And we've been working with partners, including with the World Bank, to think about how that could be reflected in a way that genuinely provides rewards in that context. There is also a range of innovative finance instruments on the table that are coming forward that are going to require us collectively to lean in order to be able to make them work. We know that the TFFF is going to be a big subject of discussion. That's an important mechanism for thinking about how we work together on forests. But I'd also like to point to the fact that there's more work to do on high-integrity carbon markets together. We have the Kali Fund that potentially emerged from the CBD, where there's an opportunity for benefit sharing from digital sequencing information. And in the UK, we're working on a range of issues, including with our French partners on biodiversity credits. So innovative finance is one part of the solution. Repurposing public finance and public subsidies is a challenging thing to do in the agricultural space, but in the UK, we are really making significant efforts to try to move forward with that, and we would love to talk to and partner with any other country that finds an appetite to do that. We don't think it's easy, but we do think that it's really, really important. There is also something very important for us about focusing not just on the protection of ecosystems, important though it is, but also on the productive economy, which is the economy that is going to drive jobs and deliver economic outcomes and needs to work in harmony with our work on nature. So that's why we're increasingly focused on investments in regenerative agriculture and in the bioeconomy, where we also see very considerable opportunities for private sector investment. And I think my colleague sitting next to me here from Mirova is going to tell us in a while about the partnership that we're working on together. So there's a range of opportunities for scaling up. I think we need to start getting into a really granular level of discussion with all of those. But I'll just finish by saying none of this is viable if we don't recognise, in particular, two sets of communities that are absolutely at the heart of driving solutions. One is the world's farmers, who have to be part of the solution and with whom we have to work. And the second is with Indigenous people and local communities, who are really the core stewards underpinning a lot of the activity that we're looking for. So I look forward to sharing that agenda with you all, and thank you very much for this opportunity to discuss with you.
Well, thank you very much. And your message was loud and clear, how to go from projects to real structural and macroeconomic transformation. And the ideas you shared with us and what you're doing, I think, really makes sense for this conversation. The issue of debt and the cost of capital and the access to capital, believe me, is one of the pains of the developing world, as you know, which is where most of the biodiversity is located. The issue of carbon markets, biodiversity credits, repurposing subsidies and investment, and in looking at preventive economy, regenerative, I cannot say that in English, agriculture and bioeconomy, and also thank you for bringing in the agents that really matter in this equation, which are farmers and Indigenous people. So thank you very, very much. Let me now turn directly to Dida Gardera, a Senior Advisor for Connectivity and the Service Sector of the Coordinating Ministry for Economic Affairs of Indonesia. Tiny, tiny country. So you have the floor, Excellency.
Thank you, Maria. Good afternoon, Excellencies, distinguished speakers and participants. Thank you for the opportunity to convey the Indonesian policy on nature-based solutions. I would like to begin by acknowledging that Indonesian natural wealth has long been a foundation for our economic growth. These resources support at least 13% of the national GDP through agriculture, forestry, and fisheries sectors. Beyond economic outputs, Indonesia ecosystem provide essential services such as climate and water regulation and biodiversity conservation. To this end, we believe that managing these resources sustainably is key to achieving equitable prosperity and higher quality growth. Indonesia has achieved notable progress in reducing deforestation and will further intensify our efforts in restoring and rehabilitating degraded lands. In 2023, Indonesia deforestation was 0.12 million hectares, down from 1 million hectares in 2014, reaching its lowest level since 1990. Indonesia committed to restoring 2 million hectares of peatlands, rehabilitating 8.3 million hectares of degraded land by 2030, an area comparable to 780 times the size of Paris. This is in line with our commitment by achieving full net sink by 2030. We believe that rehabilitated land can support agriculture productivity and bioenergy development for energy and food security, a crucial component in our medium-term development plan. Additionally, we acknowledge that a landscape approach is one of the most important foundation principles in achieving our NDC. Over the past 10 years, my office, the Coordinating Ministry of Economic Affairs, has been co-chairing the Sustainable Landscape Management Multi-Donor Trust Fund with the World Bank, supported government of Norway and Australia. Throughout this implementation, has supported certain programs, including rehabilitation of mangrove, improving the government of result-based payment projects, and supported indigenous and customary community to gain land rights. Through the Mangrove Coastal Resilience Project, for example, the government has rehabilitated more than 13,000 hectares of mangrove area in our provinces, working with the 6,000 local community members. In addition, we have also provided matching grants and continue to foster growth of mangrove-based product as part of sustainable blue economy. The SLMDTPF has supported program aiming to strengthen land right. Without recognizing this right, landscape initiative may face risks related to territorial conflicts and exclusions. Throughout the One Map project, 8.4 million land parcels have been mapped, and customary land right registration was piloted in 2023. And also, Indonesia is also building stronger climate finance framework to channel funding for sustainable outcome. Indonesia has established environmental fund management agency for channeling support of the international partner. Has managed around $1.72 billion dollar, and also we are improving our carbon registry system. Is also actively being strengthened and ready for exercising Article 6.2 and 6.4 of the Paris Agreement. While commitments are made, new source of financing and innovative delivery structures will be essential to achieve these goals. Expanding the landscape-based approach while fostering local stewardship of forest economies and integrating agroforestry and non-timber forest product into sustainable value chains can enhance restoration outcomes while supporting livelihoods. This initiative including advancing Indonesia's sustainable palm oil certificate to ensure the sustainability and traceability. Indonesia reaffirms that advancing our landscape agenda requires collective efforts. Indonesia welcomes continued engagement in international platform and further support through bilateral and multilateral cooperation, as well as from the International Development Organization to strengthen our effort in advancing nature-based solution. Thank you.
We thank you, Mr. Cardera, and my joke of the beginning meant that whatever happens in Indonesia is important for the world, especially in the climate regime. So it's music to our ears to see how, the ambitious targets that you have set for yourselves, and in also centering your efforts in the issue of land rights. I think it's very much at the core of nature-based solutions and all the innovations, including carbon registry systems and all of that to implement Article 6 of the Convention. So it's, I can only say, well, thank you on behalf of the world and of tropical forests of around the world, coming from an Amazonian country myself. So basically, we are going from the part of country and regional good practices and international cooperation to giving voice to civil society, which has a very, very important role to play when we speak about nature-based solutions. So basically, the questions that are going to guide this next cluster it would be basically what has the role of civil society been in supporting and advancing nature-based solution? What are examples that the civil society actors can bring to the table for how you have supported unleashed implementation at the national and regional level? And what are the challenges that you see ahead to use nature-based solutions more widely? No? And of course, what is the role that civil society should continue to have in all of this? I will start this section of the discussion with the one and only Manuel Pulgar Vidal, a global leader of climate and energy at WWF, interim chair of the IUCN Climate Crisis Commission, a former president of the Lima COP that we all remember, and above all, a great friend. So you have the floor, Manuel.
Thank you, Fernanda. So, 5 ideas in 3 minutes. We'll try. First, we are here to celebrate. And one of the key reasons to celebrate Paris, it is because the Paris Agreement paved the way to have nature, biodiversity, land, ecosystems, raising the relevance and getting traction. That is fantastic. And after Paris, we got a very good MBS resolution in UNEA 5. We got the Global Biodiversity Framework in Montreal. We got the BBNJ, and even the ICJ advisory opinion that it is referring to nature. So as Rita mentioned, fully agree with you, Rita, now it is the time to try to join efforts. That, please, does not mean that we will merge or we must to merge conventions. That is not correct. We have to promote cooperation and we have to promote a synergetic approach. Second idea, cooperation is happening, fortunately. In Cali, we saw a very good decision. We got a very good decision in relation to biodiversity and climate. Now we have a big challenge for the COP30, because Colombia is proposing the same under the discussion on the cooperation title to get by the end of this COP30 a synergetic approach based on a decision by Paris to build the mandate for the future, to promote that synergetic relation. So synergies, it is key. Rita also mentioned why, because it can promote effectiveness, and second, it can promote policy coherence, that it is key when it is about implementation. Third idea, MBS is the low-hanging fruit. But let's be clear that MBS, it is something that it must be focused on the 3 main values: to address a clear and well-documented societal challenge, to secure ecosystem integrity, and to promote social benefits and respect rights. If there are any of those that it is not there, it is not MBS. Never call MBS if it is not a confirmation of the three main values. So MBS, it's a connector, an important connector, but there are many other things that could be raised because of this connection in between climate and nature. The relation of deploying renewable energy by protecting biodiversity, by protecting rights, but even by bringing into this equation critical minerals. That is something so important. No? I am doing well. Fourth idea, we have to complete the system. So, for example, some people is talking about nature positive. What does it mean? What is the content of nature positive? We don't need to continue developing that. Because if we don't have a clear system, and fortunately IUCN has just updated the MBS standard, just follow that standard. I think it's a fantastic standard, but it is not enough with the standard. We do need to have the whole system for the net zero and for the nature positive, strongly based on science. And last idea, finance. And in MBS, what countries are seeking? Capacity building. They need to be clear on how to adopt MBS and make it a public policy. And finance, some good examples have been raised today, highlighted today. And let me say a couple of things. France must be proud of their green bonds. The green bonds of France are fantastic, focusing on biodiversity, even with mechanism to promote credibility and transparency, with a council that it is evaluating that. The TFFF, the Tropical Forest Facility Forever, could be also an innovative way. Green bonds. That is something, the carbon markets, it is something that deserves more attention. No? Unfortunately, until now, carbon markets have not been able to unlock resources. For that, we do need to continue working on high integrity and high quality. MDB reform, something also that it is so important. And in Ecuador, country of Maria Fernanda, debt swaps, that is happening in countries as in Ecuador, in Galapagos, and the Amazon. Oh, I didn't fulfill with the time, but thank you very much.
Well, so much substance there. Thank you, Manuel. And yes, we need to celebrate the Paris Agreement because it did bring nature and biodiversity into the climate discussion big time, and this has fueled, greater progress after that, not only in the climate negotiation space, but elsewhere. So in your call, that is, I think, a shared call for the need for synergies, coherence, and cooperation among the Rio Conventions. Very much looking forward to see what comes out of Belém during COP30, this decision to really bring organically the three conventions together for better coordination and for more coherence and synergy. And basically the three principles of NBS, we cannot agree more. It is a low-hanging fruit, but if we do it well, and where rights and social benefits also matter at the center, your call for including critical minerals, I think that's a serious issue that we need to sit and talk, and very important. And the call for capacity building and creative finance, the green bonds of France, but also the debt for nature swaps in Ecuador and other countries. So thank you very much. Let me now bring yet another friend, Ma Jun. He's the director of the Institute of Public and Environmental Affairs of China, and a fellow member of the Climate Governance Commission that we both share. So you have the floor, Ma Jun.
Thank you, Marine, and so pleased to have the chance to join this. I think this on the 10-year anniversary of the Paris Agreement when we celebrate, and I would like to highlight some of the progress made since then. And China has integrated the nature-based solution into its national climate and biodiversity strategies, and as a result, have made achievement on afforestation and reforestation. It is, through this relentless tree planting efforts, China account for 25% of the world's newly afforested area, and contributing to, of course, desertification control, and soil retention. And over 30% of China's territory have been designated as ecologically redline zones in China. So protecting critical ecosystem while enhancing carbon sequestration. And carbon sink also has been enhanced as the forest carbon stock increased by more than 7% during the past 10 years, supporting China's carbon peak and neutrality targets. And China, the next step is also trying to tap into the success of the past 10 years, including on the MBS, but also including China's tackling of its air and water pollution by leveraging the power of monitoring and data transparency to facilitate multi-stakeholder efforts. So in order to achieve that, China has been making some innovative solutions on eco-function zoning, divided the country into 44,000 eco-function zones. And of course, this open access platforms have helped NGOs like us to turn that into solutions for major banks before they issue loans. Now they overlap the project location and the factory location with that eco-function zoning, which is based on baseline research. So, so to achieve better, better managed biodiversity risks, and also, of course, China used remote sensing and satellite imaging, AI to track deforestation, soil erosion, and urban heat island, enabling NBS interventions. And in the meantime, one of the key issues is how to further enable the not just public participation but also private sectors, and so China is developing new template, new disclosure rules for the private sectors, so that they can use AI to power the template, so that it can help even the small and medium-sized companies to make more easily try to report their biodiversity related information. Of course, the eco-function zonings help map helpful, and all this land use change data being made available, that is also very helpful. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Majun, and it's always good, to know firsthand what China is doing, and really commend these national climate and biodiversity strategies being connected to climate action and your carbon neutrality targets. And also, I think it's very important to have this comprehensive approach, bringing in air pollution and water pollution as well, and the issue of data, the importance of data and monitoring and transparency as well. Good to know that you are also developing guidelines for the private sector, and we know the impact this may have. So these are good news from China. We have read the NDCs from China also, and there is a lot of movement that we see, especially the very impressive development on renewable energy from China. So these are all good news, and it's good news, this comprehensive approach where nature-based solutions have a key space and a role. Let's move quickly to the third part of our conversation, bringing in the private sector and the finance sector. I think that all the great ideas we have heard, the excellent examples, how to scale up, how to improve policy, how to bring the three Rio Conventions together, and all of that really need the voice and the commitment of the private sector, the financing sector. So the question to you would be, how can these PPPs that we've been talking for so long, these public-private partnerships and other innovative financing, can accelerate nature-based solutions? What are the obstacles you see, but what are the promising developments? I heard that perhaps we will have some good news to share this afternoon. Let me quickly give the floor to Gauthier Querut, Director of the Natural Capital of Mirova. So you have the floor.
Thank you
for
very
3
much.
minutes.
Yes. Yeah, ministers, excellencies, and distinguished panelists, thank you very much for the invitation. So I work for Mirova. I represent the private sector and actually investing in sustainability. And 10 years ago, we made a bold move, a bold decision in considering that restoring degraded land could become an investment opportunity. And we did not do this alone. We did this in a coalition with the United Convention to Combat Desertification here at the table with WWF and a PPP, a blended finance structure. And this was the LDN fund, so the first generation fund. We could raise $200 million, invest in 15 projects in Africa, in Latin America, in Southeast Asia, and we could make the demonstration that it could be attractive to invest in restoring land through the sustainable production of certified food and fiber, through the generation of high-quality carbon credits, and with multiple benefits that this project can generate. And so we wanted to made another move and to continue the effort and double the objective to reach 400 million. So that's the objective of the second generation fund. And we initiated this fund earlier this year, and today at the Paris Peace Forum and as part of the Paris Climate and Nature Week, I'm very happy to announce the investment of the British government through DEFRA and of the Canadian government through Global Affairs Canada in our second generation sustainable land fund. It's a very important milestones that comes alongside also the support of the French government through Proparco and the Dutch government through FMO to build this coalition and get to the 400 million. With also the support of the Green Climate Fund, we're halfway at 200 million, and we have attracted also private capital. And through blended finance, the objective is really to mobilize even more capital. And the importance here is to say that blended finance works if the parameters are well set, that we are able to attract more and more private capital in the sector as investors understand that there are physical risks associated with nature, that nature is the very foundation of our economic model. And so with blended finance, we can provide them a cushion that enables the investment decision to allocate more resources to the space. And above all, we can really, with concrete projects on the ground, show that nature can become a real asset class if well addressed. So I'll keep it short to let my neighbors speak as well. But so in the time of ESG backlash, of opposing environmental regulation that we can hear, these types of coalition bringing together the public sector, the private sector, the civil society are essential to keep the momentum and to reconcile economic prosperity, sovereignty, security, and the protection of nature. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And thank you for the good news, for reinforcing the idea that blended finance works, for also reinforcing the idea that restoring degraded land is good business. And what we have seen is that the magic of that working is governments, the private sector, but also the multilateral mechanisms, not only the convention to combat desertification, but to have the Green Climate Fund coming into play as well. So this is the formula that works. Investing in recovering degraded land is good business. That's what I learned from what you said, and we're really looking forward that you meet the 400 million target that you have set. So these indeed are good news. Let me now turn to Damien Brault. I don't know how you pronounce your last name, but he's the Senior Managing Director of Nature-Based Solutions at RDM. You have the floor, and hopefully with more good news.
Yeah, we do. Thanks for the invitation. Just to go straight to one of your question is how we can the private sector can sustain this NBS sector. It has to be what we call the bankable asset class, bottom line, as Gauthier was saying, and this is how we have approached this new sector in Ardian, where the climate angle is critical in the infrastructure business that we have developed over the last 15 years. We started with renewable energy, we launched a hydrogen fund, and then we decided what would be the next step in terms of climate fight and ecosystem restoration. And this is the genesis of our fund. But still bearing in mind that it has to be a bankable asset class, because when you go and discuss with investor, I think all of us would be convinced that we need to restore the ecosystem, that we need to fight against biodiversity loss, but they would tell you, what's your business model? How does it work? Is it bankable? Can we have a decent return while delivering as well social benefit, biodiversity impact? But show me that it's viable in the long run. So this is how we have built this initiative around really the infrastructure mindset, where you build the ecosystem around, I would say, developers have their skills on the ground, developing a project, investors willing to capable of structuring project finance, and then off-takers either buying high-quality carbon credits and or biodiversity certificate. That's one. Second, I would say we wanted to have something at scale, because when you go and discuss with investors, they want to commit largely in this space, but they want your money to be efficient, meaning that restoring land is not 100 hectares, it's 10,000, 20,000 hectares. And this is where, coming back to your point, the PPP framework is a good way. It's not the only one, but that's a good way of restoring at scale. I would say sharing the benefit with governments, where everybody is getting the profit from the land restoration. That's very critical. And last but not least, it's I think Manuel mentioned it as well in terms of capacity building. That's very critical in the scaling up of NBS, and we see more and more skills coming into this NBS, which is new asset class. So you need expertise in biodiversity, in forestry, in carbon, in finance. So it's a complex asset class, but we're getting there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we get, from your message was, we came up with this infrastructure mindset and to ensure that there are bankable projects. But I think what lies behind all of this is how to properly value ecosystem services, and not only financially, but the social services of ecosystems and their contributions of not only nature integrity, but our own well-being and survival. But I really like the infrastructure mindset approach, and also calling for capacity as a key issue. Let me now bring Gabriela Hurst. She's the founder and fashion director at Gabriela Hurst, and we really want to hear from the fashion sector, because we know it has an impact, but it can also be very innovative. And you are the voice of innovation in the fashion sector. So you have the floor, Gabriela.
Thank you for having me. I've never done speed dating, but I think this sounds like it. I come from Uruguay in South America. I'm a 7th generation rancher. My family has sustained themselves being regenerative with pre-industrial practices. My mother's still off the grid, and I know firsthand that the success of what it is to work with nature and how we belong to nature, and nature doesn't belong to us. I've been working in the fashion industry for 2 decades, and I was really empowered to make change when I saw what climate injustice was firsthand in the drought in 2017 in the Horn of Africa, which we know things have gotten much worse, as I empathize with rural people. And why does the life between the tropics have to pay the price of how we live in the north? So I'm going to talk to you about simple solutions, because one of the things that really I always want to turn down is when people say it's more expensive to be sustainable in my industry, when does efficiency is not economical sense. So I did a lot of research and development in my own brand, and then I worked for a bigger brand in France, where I understood how the maisons work. Every single thing that we developed at Gabriela Hearst was very easy to implement fast, which that made me very hopeful. For example, we changed everything to recycle hangers made out of cardboard, because 99% of all hangers go to a landfill. Every single person that's what's wearing today right now came packed two ways, or hanged or flat packed, and that was also packed in plastic. So we changed that to biodegradable, and then you look at the materiality. I use natural fibers. We stay away from cotton because of what it does to biodiversity. So we do linen, leather, and wool. Wool is being one of the most sustainable fibers that anyone can use. We've been using it as a humanity for 8,000 years. But working in France, realizing how a French maison works. So just imagine a pyramid. On the top of that pyramid is all the high crafted materials, that has a low impact. Then you have in the middle range the industrial materials, the more blazers, sweaters. But really what has the impact of the industry is the volume drivers. Whatever the manufacturers are making in the 20s or the 30th of thousands. So I've confronted myself in a reality where I was seeing bringing revenue to the company, but also our carbon footprint was growing at the same time. So how do you make that chart go one way up and one way down? So you change the volume drivers, and that's what we did. We created a sneaker that had a lower impact than the previous sneaker that saved 80% more water and 30% less carbon footprint. We changed all the denim to recycled cotton. We changed all the bags that were made out of cotton into linen. So that sort of change of focusing on the volume drivers, it's what's really the way to change the big mammoth. And just as a disclaimer, my industry is not the second polluter. That was a nice thing that was said one time and a good headline, but we're not the second polluter. We do have a very bad reputation in water usage that is being addressed and has to be addressed. And then lastly, we have to remember that we're all here because of the usage of fossil fuels. So where are we taking the energy? That's really important. And I've tried to focus, I've talked to every single executive from all the big brands, and they're always the same problem. Where are we taking the energy to do the product that we do? And I think that the solutions are coming with geothermal. And I am a big believer in fusion energy because I've been following that sector. So we know we have to leave the environment. It's a place to regenerate. We know we have to focus in the people who are making our products and who is making our products. The social component is very, very important. But mostly, where are we taking the energy to do what we do? And the private sector bears the big burden of where we are today.
Thank you very much, Gabriela. What a nice way, to close this conversation, and thank you for what you're doing. I think the issue of awareness and good information is vital, but if there is awareness of the carbon footprint in general, the nature related footprint and the waste in the fashion sector, the awareness, the data, the right information, but then the commitment of the fashion sector to do what you are doing. And I think it starts with awareness and proper knowledge. So I think that, and thank you for that and for being such a great advocate that we belong to nature at the end of the day. But thank you for your work you do. I'm told that we need to end now, so no time, no chance for a summary from my end, but no need for a summary. This was great, a very rich conversation, the best way to honor the 10 years of the Paris Agreement, and a lot of homework ahead of us. So thank you for this incredible, crisp conversation. And let's remember, the good intentions and the compromises under the Paris Agreement. So thank you very much for bringing us together and for this very vibrant conversation this afternoon. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the forum.